activity 53 begins a section on equality, and I thought I would begin with a focus on slavery. The institution of slavery is something very evil in the history of America, of the United States, and it was a great departure from not only, well, our belief that all human beings have the rights of life, liberty, and property, and also the principle of equality, where government needs to protect and respect the rights of all human beings. This was a great failure, and it was also something I mentioned in the previous activity about history class and speaking about the United States as in a very negative way. Slavery is one of the main topics used when doing that. I just want to contribute just a few thoughts to this conversation about slavery and equality, and put a little controversy question here that I usually talk about in my classes, and ask good students when you have this line in the Declaration of Independence that says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain alienable rights. Did this include slaves, African Americans? All students almost say no. Obviously, it did not. They were only talking about white property-owning males. How could they be including, African Americans when there was the existence of slavery, and other points that are made? So I'm going to suggest that perhaps that's not the right way of looking at it, that actually there was an understanding at this time that slavery was wrong, was evil, at least among some people, and especially among the founders, and that they were setting up a standard by which you could say that slavery was wrong, and many did say that slavery was wrong. I just put at the beginning of Activity 53 this quotation from St. George Tucker, from a letter of his. He would be clearly somebody who saw slavery as terrible, evil, something that needed to be abolished. He says that the introduction of slavery into Virginia is considered among its greatest misfortunes by a very great majority of those who are reproached for this evil. He says this in 1795, so you can see that a significant number of people in Virginia at that time were opposed to slavery, but maybe not politically powerful enough to do anything about it, or and perhaps didn't know exactly how to go about getting rid of it in a way that would be advantageous for all, including the freed slaves. He points out that the present generation couldn't have avoided this. We'll see more about this later, but once slavery was established in Virginia, and once the laws protected it and prevented abolition, freeing of slaves or abolition, then if you were born owning slaves, you kind of stuck with it, and your only recourse was to try to take steps to get rid of the institution by changing the laws. We'll see more about that in another part of this activity. But I just want you to see that Lincoln in letter A is very emphatic when he speaks against the Dred Scott decision in 1857, that according to his understanding, when the Declaration of Independence says all men are created equal, it really means all people, including those who were held in slavery. He makes it clear that it doesn't mean everybody's equal in terms of equally smart, equally talented, whatever. It just means that all human beings have the same rights, life, liberty, property. So it's wrong, for example, to murder a white man, a black man, an Asian man, a woman of any race. Everybody has these rights, and it's wrong to harm any human being. he goes on to say in that last paragraph that, they were just as aware, the signers of the Declaration were just as aware as we are that slavery existed in their society. They weren't denying the existence of it. And as Lincoln goes on to say, they also weren't saying that, hey, we're going to free the slaves right now. And what I want you to focus on is what Lincoln says in that second sentence. He says, in fact, they had no power to confer such a boon. A boon refers to the freeing of the slaves, a benefit. And he points out that the signers of the Declaration had no power to free the slaves. They were getting together to write in the Continental Congress to write up this declaration, to sign it. To get rid of slavery, you'd have to be a member of one of the state legislatures. And you'd have to change the laws state by state by state. That's where the power over slavery was. But the way Lincoln understands it is once you say these words in the Declaration, you have set up a standard by which you can say that slavery was wrong and set up a standard that American society could work toward achieving. And you can see in letter B that Martin Luther King understood it the exact same way, that the words of the Declaration was a promise. The Declaration was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. He sees it as a promissory note, something that wasn't true at that moment, but which was right and which would be achieved someday as people sought to live up to the standards laid out in the Declaration.